Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
What if your emotional life didn't have to feel like a constant reaction or a constant recovery? Welcome to the International Awareness Integration Institute Virtual Clinic, a global online clinic offering psychotherapy, coaching, integrative well-being services, and mind-body practices, all in one place. At International Awareness Integration Institute, we don't just talk about change, we train it. Our work is guided by awareness integration theory, an evidence-based psychological and educational model designed to reduce anxiety and depression patterns, strengthen emotional regulation, and help you build a life that feels meaningful, steady, and fulfilling. Whether you're navigating stress, relationship strain, burnout, life transitions, trauma symptoms, or simply the feeling that you've outgrown your old life, you'll find a clear path forward here, supported by licensed professionals and expert practitioners. If you're ready to feel better, think clearer, and live fully, join the International Awareness Integration Institute Virtual Clinic today. Visit awarenessintegration.com and book your first session or join our membership.
It's also a fact that as perfectionism rates are going up, so are suicide rates, and they are correlated. So we're having more and more people whose lives look like they couldn't get any better kill themselves.
And it gets worse with the social media, because I think
Yes.
that one of the cornerstones of social media is that you only put your best foot forward. You only look at, and even if you don't have one, you keep fabricating one in this, world of theater. And,
Right.
I've known people who spend a lot of time and money in fabricating sceneries. They would plan out a whole day of creating things, going to the beach or doing such and such in order just to take pictures and show it to the world that this is who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so due to social media, this concept you're sharing about, how you have to show that you're performing is very important. And then if you don't get enough likes, if you don't get enough, views, then you go right back into that shame.
Right, exactly.
And
exactly.
foster that constantly.
Mm-hmm. I don't know why I remember this specifically, but a young woman was on my couch, as they say, and she was sobbing and so unhappy, and she said something about, but I want to show you my Instagram. And I mean, what she showed me couldn't have looked any happier or more put together, and there are so many people doing that at this point. And like we're supposed to believe a picture, and it is very sad to me, and I'm quite concerned about.
Introducing a powerful new update from the Foojan app. Now with flexible subscription plans to fit your journey monthly, quarterly, or yearly. Our new AI-driven onboarding customizes your path to feeling better, faster, and enjoy a refreshed experience with stunning 3D interactive videos. Update now. Empower your inner voice with Foojan. Download today. If you've been doing your best, but still feel stuck in anxiety, relationship stress, or the weight of old patterns, this is where things begin to shift. At the Awareness Integration Institute Virtual Clinic, we offer something different. We provide two pathways forward. In psychotherapy, our licensed clinicians help heal unresolved trauma, reduce anxiety and depression, and navigate life transitions. In coaching, our certified coaches help you build confidence, leadership, and relationship mastery, turning insight into decisive action. Both are guided by Dr. Foojan Zain's evidence-based awareness integration theory, a structured roadmap from awareness to integration to action. During our summit, save 25% on all services from March 22nd through 29th. Visit awarenessintegration.com to book your first session or request to be matched with the right provider. Welcome to the Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Foojan Zain. I'm a psychotherapist and author and the founder of the International Awareness Integration Institute. Today, I'm excited to
have this wonderful, wonderful psychotherapist with me again. I'm talking with Dr. Margaret Rutherford. She is a clinical psychologist whose TEDx talk on perfectly hidden depression has reached over 2 million viewers. Her work has been translated into dozens of languages and offers a life-changing insight for sufferers, families, and friends of people who experience a hidden depression. We talk about what hidden depression is, what are the signs, what you can look for, and what does her book, we're going to be talking about her latest book, which is a workbook 2, Finding the Hidden Depression, what you can find and what are some of the processes to start looking and connecting with the part of you that is inside and you probably have been shoving away or not looking at, or even were feeling ashamed to recognize that part is there, and it's been knocking at your door constantly. So I really enjoy every time I talk to her, and I'm positive that you will also enjoy as much as I did. Now, be sure to subscribe to my podcast on my YouTube channel. Connect with me through my website, foojanzain.com, or any of the social media platform. Love to hear from you. Go to awarenessintegration.com. We have an amazing, amazing team that work for mental well-being, coaches, psychotherapists, mind and body practitioners. We have meditation, we have breath work, we have yoga, we have functional medicine. We have found a platform. We've created a platform for you that takes care of your mind, your emotion, and your body. We have amazing membership opportunities for you to become part of a community that wants to take care of itself and gives you guidance, it gives you tools in how to do that. Don't forget to go to Foojan app, and you have 31 areas of your life to work with. And talk to Mira, which is an AI chatbot specifically trained in the awareness integration therapy, in which people are using the app and they're finding 70 to 75% improvement as they work through the different areas of their life. Now, I love to hear from you. So connect with me any way that you like. Now, without further ado, here's Dr. Margaret Rutherford.
Listen up if you want to promote your personal growth and self-awareness. I found the Foojan app last month and I have been absolutely loving it. I personally have never learned guided meditation, but thanks to this app, I now have learned incredible tools for my own stress relief and emotional self-awareness. Not to mention, there are self-evaluation tools and professional coaching available to utilize however your journey to self-discovery takes you. Join Foojan today and redefine your life one step at a time.
Now, sometimes the mind understands, but the body still holds the stress. That's why the International Awareness Integration Institute Virtual Clinic offers mind-body services that help you regulate your nervous system, restore calm, and return to yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally. Our reflective practices include guided mindfulness, breath work, yoga, and grounding exercises, and specifically curated to support emotional regulation and physiological calm. Our somatic integration practices are a refined body-led approach where healing begins with presence, working with breath, sensation, posture, and gentle movement, so resilience becomes felt, not forced. And for those who want deeper whole person support, we offer functional well-being guidance, addressing the interplay between hormonal balance, digestion, sleep architecture, and lifestyle factors with a root cause holistic framework. This is not self-care as a luxury. This is self-regulation as a life skill and a pathway to fulfillment. Choose the support your body and life have been asking for. Visit awarenessintegration.com to join a weekly meditation, explore somatic healing, breathwork, yoga-inspired movement, or functional medicine services, and start feeling the difference.
So excited to have you back, Dr. Margaret Rutherford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Foojan. Plus, if you're Foojan, I'm Margaret, okay?
There we are. We have to first say it appropriately so for people to know.
Well, that's right. We both worked hard for those.
Who you are and what you've been doing. Beautiful, so many amazing years of supporting people with depression. And you have created Perfectly Hidden Depression Workbook, which is a step-by-step, let me show people. There you go. The step-by-step guide to challenge the 10 traits of perfectionism that mask your depression. It's I love it. One aspect of it is we usually look at perfectionism from the angle of high-level anxiety. Like people anxiety, they need to be in control, they need to be their best, everything has to go the way they think that it should be perfect. And therefore, we usually put that in the category of anxiety. I love it that you're also putting that in the category of depression. And you're saying there's a hidden depression, that because people are, they're high achievers, they're going after what they want, they're reaching what they want. So from someone who's looking from outside, why do you need to, why would you even be depressed?
Yes, exactly.
There's something going on inside. So share with us, in your expertise, in all the years that you've worked with so many people, how did you see this hidden depression?
Well, let me make sure that I point out that certainly the research shows, and you can see in your practice, I'm sure there are people who are perfectionists that would not earn this kind of concept. They don't fit into it because their perfectionism is more constructive. It's not based on, it's based in generosity or curiosity or just wanting to give back, or, just having a very conscientious approach to life. Okay. That's called constructive perfectionism. Destructive perfectionism is more akin to perfectly hidden depression, where that perfectionism, if you think about camouflage, you wear camouflage in order to hide your identity, right? To do something without a lot of attention coming your way, and it will protect you, and it will hide you from people you don't want to see you, right? So if you think about a certain kind of perfectionism as a camouflage that really probably starts being worn when you're young, like in even growing up, because you grew up in a family where there was abuse or alcoholism, or you grew up in a family where you weren't encouraged, or in fact you were chided, or you were punished for being angry or being sad, or we don't have those kinds of feelings in this house, or whatever. You certainly weren't encouraged to be more transparent with your emotions within the family. You also may have grown up in a family that really worshiped high performance, and that's what you were told. The message was, we'll love you, but you better achieve. That kind of perfectionism often camouflages any pain that actually was there. It's not just because you weren't allowed to express it, or it wasn't safe to express it, doesn't mean it wasn't there. But what you learned how to do was to push it away and lock it up in some corner of your mind, with as many locks as you could possibly put on it. And then you go out and you achieve, and you're successful, and you look like you have everything together. But what's underneath all of that is all that pain, that shame, the guilt, the fear, the anger, all of those things. And so it becomes incredibly important for you to feel and to create a persona that there's nothing behind the curtain, that you are what you are, not pretending to be, but you're becoming this perfect looking person with a seemingly flawless life.
So it looks like a performance.
Yes, and you are performing.
Yeah, you got to come up on stage all the time. You got to perform to be this amazing performer. And then underneath it, you have this this insecurity, let's say. And I'm sensing, based on what you're sharing, is that the shame keeps getting created, because at any point, if you are that high performance person and you're not getting the feedback from the outside world that you are perfect, then the shame keeps rebuilding, gets re-triggered, right?
And the fear, right, and the shame. And so The reason why we say shame is because, shame is about, it's something you regret or you have remorse for or you see as a wrong or something, and it makes you a bad person. So, the more perfect you look, the more you can convince yourself, you see how that shame isn't real, and so you can stick it back. Unfortunately, it just grows more potent. And that's what your actions, your actions are, they become about keeping that shame at bay, keeping fear at bay, keeping anger at bay. That's a horribly lonely way to live your life because you can't be transparent with anyone because it's too dangerous. You might get found out, that you actually have some problems or whatever. So it's a prison of sorts where you're both the prisoner, you have hidden away a lot of your feelings and they are imprisoned, but you're also the guard that you don't want anyone to know that any of this is going on. Now you might say, well, how did you get interested? Do these people come to therapy? Occasionally they do. More have come to me since I've been writing about this, and they see themselves in the concept. But they'll come in to say, I don't know, I'm trying to make a decision, and I've told you were nice to work with or something, or they're anxious, to your point. And yet when I try to lead them to where they might talk about something difficult or to express some pain, Foojan, they don't know how. They don't have the language. These are people love to stay in their heads. They're much more mentally oriented than they are emotionally oriented. So I remember a guy said to me, he goes, Margaret, you keep talking about ask me how I'm feeling. I don't really feel much at all. I just do. I just do. And that kind of thing. So, I started writing about this because I actually just you may remember this story from years ago. I was writing, had a blog and I was writing about some of these people, and I named the blog post, "The Perfectly Hidden Depressed Person, Are You One?" I just pulled it out of the air. And it went viral, and I got hundreds of emails and said, how do you know about this? And who are you? And, and what is this perfectly hidden depression? And so I got curious, and that was back in 2017, 16 and 17. And that's when I started writing the book, and we're doing a lot of writing about it, which turned into a book, which turned into a TEDx, which turned into a second book. So
yes. So the beauty of this book is that although it is called a workbook, but it's all encompassing. So not only has the explanation, but it also has the exercises where the person can start looking and kind of digesting what's happening within themselves. So they can sit down with these exercises and look at what's going on within them.
Exactly.
And kind of keep opening these layers and to see what they're hiding inside. And then
because these people will not be viewed as depressed. They don't look depressed. They will deny that they are depressed. And they'll say things like, I've got so many blessings. I have people who want to live my life, who come up to me and say, gosh, how do you get done everything you get done? You just have a great life. And yet there are certain traits that I came up with a lot of help from psychology friends that would indicate that this person might have this perfectly hidden depression. For example, they take a lot of responsibility. They like a lot of control. They never or rarely talk about themselves or anything bad that happened to them. They don't allow anybody into their inner world. They carry this intense shame and fear that fuel their actions. So it's a concept that I think widens and broadens our understanding of what depression can look like. And it's because the problem, Foojan, in my opinion, is that the mental health industry has become so burdened or by the DSM. We're supposed to have a symptom checklist for everything, and if someone doesn't fit that symptom checklist, then they're not depressed or they're not anxious, they don't have bipolar disorder or whatever. And those symptom checklists are important. They serve a purpose, but most mental health illnesses or mental illnesses are so much more variable than that. And certainly this kind of depression is. And I even had a young woman reach out to me. I play her voicemail to me for when I'm teaching clinicians about this. And she said, I heard about perfectly hidden depression. I thought it was probably me, but I didn't want to look at it. Then I bought the book finally, and I cried as I was reading it. And I took it into my therapist, who I love, and I've been working with her for a couple of years. And I said, this is me. And she literally looked at this woman and said, you do not fit criteria for depression, and you're not depressed. And here she was crying about the recognition of herself in my words, which was, of course, wonderful for me to hear that had helped her. But the therapist was so tied into, you must fit this symptom checklist. And I think we're wrong to do that. I've used the example of cardiology, where if a woman goes to a cardiologist, especially a woman of color, and says, I think I'm having warning signs of a heart attack. And now this was like 20 years ago. And what the male physician or just a cardiologist would say, well, these aren't the symptoms. This is not right. This is not what's on my checklist. Well, the research was only being done with men. And when it began being done with women, then all of a sudden the doctors were like, oh, wait, yes, for a woman, this is a sign of a impending heart attack. I think we need to do the same thing with depression. I think we need to broaden, expand the definition.
Right. I think part of what I know about the symptoms of the depression is that, kind of like the hopelessness and the helplessness is part of like the strong concept, where what you're sharing is that the shame that is underneath this is also part of the depression. That it doesn't necessarily show up in the significance concept of I'm powerless and I'm hopeless, because it's not. Like with someone who is a perfectionist, but with someone who's a high performer, they do not have the hopelessness or the powerlessness in that level. They might at one point when they become elderly, or they can't do the performances to fall into that. But it seems like what you're really looking at is that there's a shutdown between the person's performance versus who they really are. They shut down that door. And you shared, like, even from their childhood, the message was that part is not important. That part is a hindrance. That part is an obstacle.
Forbidden. It's forbidden.
Forbidden. And therefore it should go into the attic. It should be locked, and you should, only look at your strength and, bring out your strength, and that part should never come out. Well, because we're human being and that part is going to always knock at the door and show up, it becomes this the struggle inside to constantly push another part of you down. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be able to do that. And then what you're also sharing is that because we don't want anybody to see that because it's forbidden, there's a lot of energy is being put that you show up at the storefront and nobody can look at the closet because there's demons in there, and you made your shame into a demon itself, and you can't even get there. And the split that gets created is the part that you are experiencing the split. You're experiencing the shame, the sadness, the rage, all of those inside. But you can't even tell yourself. So because that struggle happens, that it really sucks your energy, and you can't be integrating the two together so that you can have your vulnerabilities and strength also. So part of what I also do is like bringing these two pieces. And what I'm hearing from you is, if you don't know it, if you have no idea, if you've shoved it, aside because it was forbidden, you can't be accepting it and loving it and moving forward with it.
You can't be compassionate about it. You know, I was asked to do a TEDx, what now, almost 3 years ago, and how I got that opportunity was a woman called. Well, she contacted me on LinkedIn and said, I had a friend who killed herself within the last 6 weeks, and her life looked perfect, and we all were shocked that she would kill herself. And her husband at the funeral came up to me and said, I found this. It was a book on her bedside table, and it was my book.
Mhm.
So this woman said, what is perfectly hidden depression? You know, I want to know. Turns out she was a co-organizer of TEDx, of the TEDx Boca Raton. So I auditioned for it, interviewed for it 1 year, did not get in, and then I got in the second year. So but Foojan, I mean, the response to it has been tremendous. It has over 2 million views, and keeping on going strong. So, and people's comments, there's thousands of comments below that are about, I know exactly what this is. I was a firefighter for 40 years. I said, I led a gray life. You know, I looked like I had it all together, but I just had no, connection with my real feelings, just like you very eloquently described, and that kind of thing. So I that has meant so much to me, that has done well, and that the message is getting out, because it's also a fact that as perfectionism rates are going up, so are suicide rates, and they are correlated. So we're having more and more people whose lives look like they couldn't get any better kill themselves.
And it gets worse with the social media, because I think that
Yes,
one of the cornerstones of social media is that you only put your best foot forward. You only look at, and even if you don't have one, you keep fabricating one in this, world of theater. And,
right.
I've known people who spend a lot of time and money in fabricating sceneries. They would plan out a whole day of creating things, going to the beach or doing such and such in order just to take pictures and show it to the world that this is who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so due to social media, this concept you're sharing about, the how you have to show that you're performing is very important. And then if you don't get enough likes, if you don't get enough, views, then you go right back into that shame.
Right, right, exactly,
And
exactly.
foster that constantly.
Mm-hmm. I I don't know why I remember this specifically, but a young woman was on my couch, as they say, and she was sobbing and so unhappy, and she said something about, but I want to show you my Instagram. And I mean, what she showed me couldn't have looked any happier or more put together, and there are so many people doing that at this point. And like we're supposed to believe a picture, and it is very sad to me, and I'm quite concerned about it. And so when the chance came to do a workbook, I decided to go for it, because I think that there was another way of approaching this topic that might fit certain people's needs a little bit better.
So when you're working with your client, and I'm positive that as people go through the workbook, they could start looking at, what is it that first someone needs to start looking at? What is it that, how can they handle, from your perspective, facing the shame? Because obviously they have to be able to open the door, which was forbidden for so many years, and they shouldn't have been looking. But
Right.
then it keeps knocking and says, look at me, hear me, be with me. And what does a person need in order to be able to open this door while they're going through the workbook? Obviously, as therapists, when we're in the office, there's a different way. And you shared, before we got on to the show, you had shared that, obviously, when we as a therapist sit with someone, and there's a different ambiance. There's a
Yes.
question and answer. There's a kind of like looking.
There's support and there's permission given and all that kind of thing.
And you said that you wanted to create a workbook where even if we as therapists are not there, that the person can start safely
Yes.
to look at that. What is it that people would need to feel safe enough to open that part of themselves and have the ability to be with?
What a wonderful question. I really think that there may be two things that come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is, and this is how I begin working with people who come to me because of this, they have to understand how their fear of being found out or not looking completely put together, how that fear has seeped into so many aspects of their existence. I mean, it's hard to find a perfectionist that will call themselves a perfectionist. Oh, I'm not a perfectionist. I do things bad, wrong all the time. Well, but they are. And so it is like, oh, well, I do expect certain things from my children, or I never let myself go to the grocery store without makeup on, or a guy said to me, I always have to make more money the next year than I made this year. So we look at these different aspects of how this pressure is affecting them. The second thing probably is the question of loneliness. And are they aware that they are lonely? Are they aware that no one knows them, really? And do they believe that that is hurtful to them? Most of the time they'll say yes, but it's also too scary. So we have to work on allowing them, one, to become aware of the damage that their perfectionism is doing, or at least some of it, not all of it. You don't have to get rid of all of it. I really wanted this workbook to be about keeping what is worth keeping, but allowing yourself to let go of what is not.
Yeah.
And so they could use this to very gently begin to understand, accept, and then literally build the courage to maybe ask someone they trust, someone that they have through the years learned that they could trust, maybe a therapist, but maybe not, and just say to them, I don't let anybody into who I am. I've never known how to do it. And the other person might say, yeah, well, I know that about you. You're very private. And say, well, I'd like to try to begin to do that with you. And that's at the point where the client will usually look at me and go, I'm not ready to do that. I said, that's okay. You do it with me first. And then, and that's all you have to do. You don't have to then start telling them the story of your life. You can say, well, that was the first step, just to say, I'm not good at this. That's the first step. And then when you're ready, you take a second small step and a third small step. The loneliness of this condition is what, and whatever sort of what early researchers would call psych ache or intolerable pain, that's at the bottom of so much of this, of I can't tolerate how bad I feel, especially since I'm hiding how bad I feel from everyone. And it's just, some people are coming to mind right now that I watch them and have worked with them, and the change in their lives when they even let one or two people into who they are is remarkable. It's remarkable.
You talked about loneliness, the internal loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
It's devastating for many people. And I also think that with all the research also showing that with the social media, the ratio of loneliness across the world has risen.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of imagery, the theater we're talking about, it's so much there, that there's an easy way of hiding behind the social media. And then the internal process is nobody understands me. Nobody sees the real me.
Right.
And I think the other part would be, what if they see the real me? And that's where the shame shows up, right? So it's not just the concept of, here I am, see my true self, because then they have the fear of, what if you actually see that I'm not all the, pictures and things that I'm creating out there? That what if you see who I really am, and then you call me a loser, not a perfectionist, not the best, and you call me a loser. And the loneliness is devastating. And I think that also leads, the shame and the loneliness leads to the suicide. Whether the suicide is actually taking your own life, or going into, addiction and utilizing drugs and doing some sort of an exit, or just isolating. Some people, due to their religious beliefs, they cannot commit suicide, or they're afraid of doing that, but they'll isolate in a way from the whole society, because they don't want that part of them to be seen. What is your suggestions in the concept of the loneliness that shows up?
Well, I had something running through my head as you were talking, which I guess I will bring up. My first book has been translated into 13 or 14 different languages. I'm not sure, but there was actually a bidding war for it, for the foreign rights, in South Korea. And when you think about South Korea and K-pop and social media and what all those, and the suicide rate among the singers, the K-pop performers and vocalists, is extremely high. And so that is a really good, it's not good, it's tragic, but it is an apt reflection of living, what's the loneliness of living your life in what looks to be a life that's really beyond anything anyone would imagine, success and worldwide fame, and dolls being made in your likeness and all that stuff, and the agony of what can be underneath there. So there have been many people who, Jean Twenge being one of the primary ones, that have written about the concern over cell phones and social media and that kind of thing, and isolation from the younger generations. And certainly in my practice, I see a lot more and hear a lot more fear about adulting. And I think it's because, the human connections are not as strong. And so, and people kind of are scared to go back into go into a larger world, because they don't really know how to handle human interaction. And AI, sadly, may make that worse. Somebody asked me last week, had I ever tried AI? And I said, yes, I have. I want to know what it is. But what I immediately noticed about AI was that how congratulatory and how it started out with praise about whatever I had asked. What a wonderful question, blah, 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 or whatever. Oh, this is really intriguing, and a human being would probably go, oh, that's interesting. It's not, we're not going to get this automatic, I think you're the best thing since sliced bread from another human being, maybe, but, we're just going to give more real kinds of feedback. So that's one of the dangers of AI, I think.
We started a little bit with the false parenthood of, and even in an educational system of, let's just, no matter what you did, to tell you you're wonderful. And I think that's where we kind of created the space for a rise in narcissism, because it just wasn't the truth. So,
Right.
it's just the same thing like you're saying that the algorithm in AI is just going to praise you, but it's not the truth. So, so I do get that would feed the false concept of the theater that I have to now, perform in that way or have, and then after a while to have the entitlement that should be the way
Sure.
it is. And if it isn't, then obviously either I'm bad or the world is bad, which, either one of those, if we insist on, again, it's not the truth. So, we're going to go into that false concept. And then add to the shame and the loneliness in a sense.
Yeah. I hadn't ever really thought about how someone with perfectly hidden depression or who might fit that rubric would function in AI. My guess would be that, they might become even dependent on it secretly because, it's going to catch their mistakes or catch their, you could make this better by saying it this way, that kind of thing. I don't know. That's an interesting question. I've never asked it of myself.
Yeah, well, we created an AI based on my model, and it does a lot of the exercise, and then you kind of like block out the algorithm of just tooting your horn, even though it's not appropriate. But I think there's there, and I work a lot with AI myself in building, some things that are in my head, and how do I give it, and how does it bring it back. But I think the fact that you are sharing in your book, which is, does what you do with this tool just give you more separation about who you are versus utilizing the tool for what it's supposed to be, but do the work where you actually do get to see yourself and connect with yourself. And that's what your workbook does. It's bringing you to connect with yourself, because you can always find another tool to amplify only a part of you versus all of you. And I think what I've known of you, and then, looking at the workbook, is how to bring your own compassion toward you.
That's exactly what I wanted it to be.
Yes.
And again, I think I said this a few minutes ago, but I am not encouraging everybody to just, become a slob or something. You want to keep the things about your perfectionism, about your drive, about your conscientiousness. I'll use that word again. You want to keep what's worth keeping, what's not hurtful to you, but begin to question and challenge some of the rest of it. That's that is there's an edict that you must always stay busy, that rest is selfish, or rest is bad, or and that playfulness is, well, you have a little bit of that, but not much, and that you need to count your blessings constantly. Well, yeah, counting your blessings is a good idea. To do it constantly, and then to not say, yeah, I have this blessing in my life, and I have other things that are not blessings, and sometimes I'm going to be needing to deal with those. So it is a way of understanding what has led you to this place of loneliness, and what you can do about it. And I love the way you put it, to have more compassion with yourself, where you're not alienating yourself, and then obviously to connect with people that you trust as well. So you have that sense of support and understanding.
Everyone, get this book, Perfectly Hidden Depression Book, a step-by-step guide to challenge the 10 traits of perfectionism that mask your depression, by Dr. Margaret Rutherford. Margaret, anything we haven't shared that you really want people to know?
Yes, there'd be one thing. This is not a companion book to the first book. It is a standalone. You do not have to have read it or bought it, the first book, you don't have to have any knowledge about it. It goes through it more quickly. And it focuses more on the 10 traits, less on how did you get this way, and more on, okay, you're here. You recognize yourself as that you're here. What is keeping you stuck? We're just going to look to dig down into those 10 traits, like hyper responsibility, like discounting painful emotion, like carrying a bunch of shame. We're going to look at all that and gently challenge your beliefs about that, and then help you change what you think. I mean, I don't know the changes people should make, but I do want to help them go in the direction that they think would be healthy for them.
And the more that they actually open these layers and watch and get connected with themselves, their inside will tell them what changes they need to make. Because when they're disconnected from themselves and they don't know, there is no message coming. You're not listening. Even if the message is coming, you're not listening. But as you keep getting connected to those parts of you, then you can listen to those messages and tell you how to shift.
Right. That's exactly right.
And how can people find you?
Oh, I'm all over the place. My website has the very creative name of drmargaretrutherford.com. I have a podcast called the Self-Work Podcast, SELFWORK. And my email is askdrmargaret@drmargaretrutherford.com. My TEDx is called How to Recognize Perfectly Hidden Depression. But again, if you just put my name in, it'll by this point, my name and Perfectly Hidden Depression are linked on on the internet.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for taking the time to being with us.
Oh, Foojan, so thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you again.
Absolutely. Same here for you, to see you, and hopefully more and more to come.
That'd be great.
And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing life for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye. Awareness, integration theory, certification programs. If you're a psychotherapist, clinician, or coach ready to elevate your impact, I invite you to become certified in the Awareness Integration Theory, AIT model. AIT is a structured, evidence-informed approach that strengthens emotional regulation, reduces anxiety and depression patterns, and helps clients create lasting change. Our training is practical, clear, and immediately usable in sessions, so you can work with more confidence and consistency. Join a global community of practitioners shaping the future of integrative mental health. Become AIT certified today. Visit awarenessintegration.com.